Sydney was like the centre of the universe of surfing a bit. I remember all the mags. Everything was happening in Sydney. There was you and Shane, the Newport Plus crew, the Narrabeen crew.
Sydney was very much that sort of powerful energy centre of just competitive urges in the water, which sort of made everyone better.
You are just synonymous with pipeline. I know there's, the John Johns and Jerry Lopez, but
5 minutes towards the end of the final, Derek Ho needed a 9.5 or something. I was in the lead, and my board just went busted out of nowhere. Just I've gone, oh my God.
Is there anything that you could say to people if they are in that position, or from your experience?
Surfing kind of gets really the body, it gets dull with the same thing over and over.
Welcome to the Green Room, your backstage pass to the world of surfing. I'm your host, surf MC and commentator Terry Tappa, diving into epic wins, crushing fails and wild stories with surfing's biggest names. So wax up, paddle out and join us in the Green Room, where the surf chat never goes flat. Today is another surfer hero from my childhood. Well, actually more of my brother, who's a goofy footers hero, Robert. He even had one of Tom's sprays on his board when he was a kid, and I'm pretty sure a bloke called Luke Egan's got an upside-down Tommy Carroll spray as his standard spray. He first came to my attention in surf and mags, like back then, with the Pepsi Pro Junior days at Narrabeen, and wow, that was a hotbed of surfing talent, the Pepsi Pro Junior. Small in stature, big in ticker. Well, if you're not an Australian, that means guts, determination for those non-Aussies out there. World champion 83-84, pipe master 87-90-91, the first goofy foot world champion. He is king of the goofies. One of the most competitive surfers I know, even it's just you and him in the lineup. He recently just won the Legends at the Burleigh Board Rider Single Fin Classic. It was pretty good. He's been inducted to the Australian Hall of Fame, the Huntington Beach Hall of Fame, and also the Sports Australia Hall of Fame. Number 7 in Surfer Magazine's greatest surfers of all time. Welcome to the Green Room, Tom Carroll.
Yeah, Tappa. Good to see you.
Hey, I checked online to make sure I had my facts right, and I couldn't believe, I had a look at Wikipedia too, they've got you in a racing suit from the Formula One GP celebrity race. That's your picture in Wikipedia.
I don't. Yeah, I guess I get it. If you're one to do that, attend to your image online. I mean, I guess I do to some degree, but I just had no idea that was going on. So Wikipedia, I think you can go and edit all that out, but I never really thought of that. But that's I ended up getting invited to a few of those celebrity races, which I just absolutely loved, and it could be a number of one of those events.
That's classic, mate. Now, when did you start surfing, mate? You and your brother, did you start at the same time? You and Nick?
Oh, look, we both love the ocean. We're both just given to it. But I was the first one to get a surfboard when I was 7. We did start sort of riding waves on what they call a surfer plane. It was like a rubber mat, blow up inflatable mat, which was Nick's. It had his name on it, had our phone number, his name on it, and it was his. So I'd just get scraps, through the years, probably the ages of 6, through that period, I was just frothing down the beach and just couldn't wait till he just sort of went in on it, and then I'd get a couple of rides of it, and I just loved that thing, and but it was on Christmas of 1968 that I'd just turned 7, and our mother was quite sick and quite ill at the time, and she was coming kind of closer to the end of her life, and she was home for that Christmas, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like 6, 7. Your brain's just not locked in to. Well, it doesn't have the hardware, available to know kind of what's actually going on in the family unit, But my older brother did, Nick, and our older sister Josephine did, and father, of course. But Mum was home, and I'll never forget there was a rumour going on around the house about whether there was there was a surfboard going to be given out for Christmas, and mean, there's a rumour floating around. I thought, well, I'm going to get the surfer plane. Nick's going to get the surfboard. So I always got the hand-me-downs. And so I was going, oh, cool, I get to use the surfer plane more often. Because Jo, she's out of the picture. She'd get a little bit of a run on it, but as far as Nick and I were concerned, we were all over that thing. And poor girl. Anyway, that happened. That we turned up for Christmas morning. Mum was there. Jo got what she did, our older sister. Nick got books, because that's what Nick did. He just read all day. And you can see in his life today how it played out. And my mum, she just pulls out this foam surfboard from underneath the bed, a polystyrene sort of foam board from out underneath the bed, and gave me a board. And I was just like, it had like the green deck and a yellow stripe down the one side. And I was just like, boom. It just got me. And I was, get me out of the water now. I didn't know about wax. We didn't know about wax either at that point. So I was slipping off the paint deck and didn't know how to stay on the board at all. So I was doing a lot of swimming.
Mate,
but that was it. That was it. That was my experience getting a surfboard at 7 and starting the journey.
So your ocean knowledge, mate, did you start, did you do nippers or anything as a kid, or were you just out there and you swam and that's how you got to know the ocean?
Well, our father made sure that we went to swimming. We did this swimming school just close by our local area here in Mona Vale, and I grew up in Newport, so it was close by, and we used to go to these swimming schools, and Nick was much more adept at swimming than I was. I was just this little stump and pretty sort of feisty, kind of what do you mean swimming? I want to dive and do all this sort of stuff. But we ended up doing laps, and I had to prove that I could swim to get a surfboard. I had to prove that I could swim 2 laps of a 25-metre pool. And so I remember just dying to get a surfboard, and I was somewhere in that 6-year-old bracket, probably around there, where I was just crying out for a surfboard. And I didn't quite make the second lap of the 25-metre pool, and I was just devastated. I remember just being devastated. Goes, Dad's no, you're not ready. I got, oh. But that was the kind of thing that our father put us up for. And there was I don't think there was even such thing as a Nippers program down at Newport Surf Club. In fact, only some years down the track when we became very good at surfing, or competent surfers, the local surf life saving club, Newport Surf Life Saving Club president, sort of saw that the numbers had dwindled down to 18 members. Can you imagine that? A surf club.
Wow.
In 70, I think that would have been 71, and there was 18 members left in the club to operate, and that club now today, I don't know, thousands. I mean, got so many members, and it's a very healthy club. But at a time when it was not like surfers to be involved in a club. In fact, it was such a different time, 71, 72, that to be involved with the clubbies was just like a no-go. We're just trying to get in with the guys who surfed the Peak, and that was just up the northern end of the beach. That was Derek Hind, probably know of him, and a few of the Walker brothers and so on. We wanted to be accepted by those guys, but they were full anti-club, and then we were getting asked to be involved with the club and come and join. So, but we'll let you use the hot showers and stay in the kind of they had accommodation downstairs in these bunks and everything. You can come and stay here on the weekend, and those, of course, we did. Leave your boards here at the club,
showers, mate.
and you have all this pack of grommets. Oh, mate, we were just all winter we had hot showers. It was pretty amazing. But we ended up doing our bronze medallion, doing our advanced resuscitation, doing all the events, like the clubby events, and surfing in the Malibu board display. Had some experiences doing the paddle races, swim races, and also doing all the patrols, to make sure everyone's safe.
Hey, mate, part of the Newport Plus crew, mate, that was a pretty hectic crew, because I know back then Sydney was like the centre of the universe of surfing a bit. I remember all the mags. Everything was happening in Sydney. There was you and Shane, the Newport Plus crew, the Narrabeen crew, and that seemed to be the centre of the universe. Would have been pretty hectic then, wouldn't it, with our competition and that, but just in the water?
Well, you can imagine, how Snapper Rocks is now. Like Snapper Rocks and that southeastern Queensland, that sort of energy that's there right now. Like I can sense that energy, and you just place it in Sydney. Sydney was very much that sort of powerful energy centre of just competitive urges in the water, which sort of made everyone better at what they were doing, even though some of it was a bit questionable, some of the antics. But, North Narrabeen was really big, had so many of the great surfers of our time. The Northern Beaches itself, from Manly to Palm Beach, having, Midget Farrelly, Collaroy having Nat Young. You go, to Manly, who eventually spawned, world champions of the kind of, Lane Beachley and Barton Lynch and other amazing competitors in my time, Bainey and it goes on. The Narrabeen crew really have, and now are starting to come into a kind of another next level, another sort of a rebirthing in a way. And so you can see that club really coming on fire right now with that kind of same spirit.
Well, mate, I talked to Shane before I've had a spot, and Shane said, I've got to ask you about one bloke from Narrabeen. And I read about this bloke in a surfing magazine, and this quote has stayed with me for more than 50 years. This bloke could do a backhand re-entry on a fence paling with a nail for a fin. Who do you reckon that'd be from Narrabeen? One of your mentors.
Cole Smith. He was Cole Smith. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was amazing.
What a surfer, eh?
He was, every turn was a U-turn. So on the wave, like every single turn was a U-turn. Like there was not many turns, never going straight. So Cole was up and down and around and around. If there was aerial surfing at that day, Cole would have been, the Italo Ferreira, or, maybe more like, Sam Pupo or something like that. He'd be, Cole was on top of the world there for a while, and probably leading the world and most radical surfer in the world at that time.
Mate, now, we all know how good you hustle, and everybody tells me that, and I know we've been out there, mate. Would that come from that time at the Newport Peak where you really had to fight to get a wave? And you're a little bloke too, you would have
had to, and Narrabeen. I used to surf Narrabeen a lot. I was drawn to going to surf Narrabeen, and I used to watch how Cole Smith used to get waves, and I used to, how does he get so many waves? He was on every wave, and I go, how does he do this? And so I kind of moulded myself after Cole a lot, and then I'd take it to the peak, and the peak is tight little area. There's a left and right, and it can get kind of dominated by a certain few in the water. So kind of the pecking order, we had to sort of fight around, sort of make your way around that pecking order. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Pipeline, because Pipeline's got that tight peak-like kind of setup when backdoor's working, and everyone's got to look both ways, and the hunger to kind of get in the zone creates a hyper-competitive, environment and ecosystem, really, if you like. And so it's like the peak was full tilt back then. It was just blokes too. It was like a very male pack mentality. There was one girl that surfed out there. Her name was Kay Jarman, and Kay, I used to look and I'd go, how do you do this? Like, in amongst all this. And she used to get waves. I was going, Kay, you're just a legend. I just used to think she was such a legend, and actually had another one of Australia's great women surfers. He used to, every now and then, she used to live at Newport, Judy Trim, her name was, and she used to surf and ride a horse around the beach, because back then we used to have paddocks with horses, and it was a totally different town than what it is now.
Yeah, well, so Northern Beach was more of a town rather than a city back then. Now it's kind of like a
Yeah,
city there.
yeah.
Now, mate, Pepsi Pro Junior days, mate, I remember that was like those posters. I've still got a picture of that Mickey Mouse poster, but that was like the surfers that came through there in the day. That was like to win a couple of those, mate. Must have been a dream when you were Grom, or well, you're a teenager, I suppose. Then,
Yeah, well, see, the first one that went on, was put on, was in 1977 in January, and like I couldn't believe it. All the best surfers, junior surfers from around Australia, and a couple from overseas came, and I was like, oh my God, they're just right here. I remember turning up one morning. The first morning it was actually the afternoon before the first day, and I remember looking out, and there was this guy flying down through the alley. Never been seen someone go so fast on a wave. Like, this guy's flying and just like carving out of the top, and it was Joe Ingle. And this is the first one, and I never forget Joey just blitzing. I'm going, oh my God, how does anyone beat that? It's just, yeah. I was flabbergasted at the surfing level, and I was that first Pro Junior was amazing. Somehow I ended up on top of that because of the way it all worked out, and I was just like, couldn't believe that I ended up winning that event. And I remember going through each heat and just getting more and more attuned to my board and the waves, and understanding myself better in the competition, and it gave me such a huge boost. That actually got me invited to the first Stubbies event at Burleigh, and
I remember that.
And it started my relationship up with Burleigh. Watching MP win that event, and being surfing with all my heroes. Like, they were all my heroes that I've been looking up to for, gosh, it seemed like half my life, maybe my whole life it felt like, and my brothers and all the crew that all my friends used to look up to MP and Mark Richards and Sean Thompson, and from Barry Kanaipuni, all the Hawaiians that came over, and I remember just sort of that event landed me in the middle of that. And that event started becoming the stepping stone for all the juniors to come. It was very powerful, all the way up to Kelly Slater when he first came on the scene.
Mate, and so that was your stepping stone into being a pro. So how old were you when you first surfed in pro events, the Stubbies, say? How old were you?
15.
Wow, 15. That must have been a lot for a 15-year-old to pull into his head.
It was. And thank God Cole was there. Cole Smith was up there surfing in that event. So I got to hang out with Cole, and kind of amazing things happened at that event for me. I actually flew up with Terry Fitzgerald on a flight, and as we were getting off the flight in Coolangatta, he goes, I want you to meet these guys. And these two big guys got out of their seats, filled up the whole aisle of the plane as we were exiting, and they said, meet Clyde and Eddie Cow, and I got to kind of meet Clyde and Eddie right there in the aisle, and my hand disappeared in their hands in this funny handshake I'd never done before, and they just spoke really softly and really, and it just the intro to that event was in that plane, and then out into everything to watching all my heroes surfing perfect Kira and then perfect Burleigh. It was it was extraordinary, and it opened my world up. And as a 15-year-old, very impressed by every single moment, and I'll never forget that. And Burleigh was firing. It was like firing for a full week, and I'd never quite seen it quite like that, where the wave was coming all the way down past there was a swimming pool down in where those restaurants and everything are. Like, I'm not even sure what that place is now, but there's like showers and it's like a like a surf club, but it's not a surf club. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
There's restaurants.
I used to learn to swim in that. I learned to swim in that pool. And
Yeah.
it used to have a stainless steel slide, and in summer you'd think, oh yeah, I'm going down the slide in my Speedos, and you'd burn your butt because it was that hot from the sun.
Yeah. Well, there was waves peeling down past that, and you could see people in the pool as you're going on the wave. It was a different wave altogether. Mm.
Well, mate, from there, like, you became a pro, basically that became your life. How was that as a kid? Like, did you end up finishing school, or did you just go straight into the pro tour?
No, I didn't finish school. I finished school at year 10. So, and so I exited school to start I thought I'd better get a trade behind me before I went on the tour. So I had something to back myself up, and I ended up in panel beating. It was like, and that showed me what I didn't want to do in a big way. It was like, and gosh, it was rough in the 70s being a panel beater, I tell you. But I almost did finish 2 years at that, and learned how to fix cars up pretty dodgily. But the people that ran that operation at Narrabeen, one of them was a surfer from Narrabeen who understood my path, and so he was able to. The reason why I took the job is so, if I could go to the Stubbies, I could go to Bells Beach, I could take those times off and go to compete, and they understood that. And also, I could go surfing at lunchtime with them at Narrabeen. So that was
Mate,
important.
Mate, your world title years, 83, 84, and probably 85. Did you find that you were sort of had a thing where you were on that year, like everything was falling into place for you, physically, mentally, and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, like, I don't know, all the time, and kind of think becoming a professional surfer had its deeper challenges where all of a sudden it becomes your work, and I started surfing for a whole different reason, right? And so, but I had to start working on it to kind of live out what my ambitions were sort of, like sort of flavouring up my kind of life. My ambitions to get really good and be better and be better in competition and pitch myself up against the best. And so in working on that, all the work kind of coming to a head and kind of being confirmed, it's pretty amazing feeling. Like it's, you start holding your body differently, that's for sure, and walking in the world differently.
Did you do any other sort of training besides surfing back then, mate? Because that's probably, I don't think anyone would have done training back then, would they, or not?
It wasn't really a part of what we're doing, but I was really keen on seeing how I could actually get really good and in other ways, and I noticed, and I did study other sports and other performing arts, particularly because I see surfing as a kind of bit of a gymnastic dance kind of combination. But also I like the feeling, first of all, the one thing that actually kind of moved me in that direction was an injury that completely obliterated my right knee. And that sort of got me to understand how to get back surfing by learning how to rehab my leg and sort of get it back into order so I could get back in the ocean and actually get it functional again. And that was back in, that injury happened in 1977, and I in May 1977. So that was a complete obliteration of the right knee and a lot of damage. So there was that I didn't really know about until 4 years later. But it was 4 years later when I went and had surgery. The knee finally sort of stayed together under having the new cruciate ligament put in there with the replacement of my hamstring, and that actually sort of the impetus to come back from that injury in the flavour of the moment of being in competition, out of competition, stopped dead in my tracks, not being able to do what I love doing. that kind of realization of what I really want to do here, and really sort of focusing my energies and sort of driving force of that towards just getting better and better with what I had. And I wanted to, and that the training that I got introduced to via the rehab started to sort of improve my surfing, and I kind of went with the flavour of that. And then I kind of started to see, and I was at the same time studying other, like I said, performing arts, and actually sports people, individual sports people, mostly like tennis players and also dancers and track and field athletes and so on, that I could see what kind of dedication they put into their active sort of getting better and evolving their surfing or their act, you know, their sport, their art, whatever. And I started doing this training routine, you know, 5 days a week, and it would bleed into 7, but because I was loving my surfing so much, because surfing started off as something I just loved. I did because I loved it, and it was just this other, you know, kind of the magic carpet came from my mother, you know. So I'm like, this thing I love, but all of a sudden there was this sort of thing I had to do, and that kind of like wobbled me out a little bit, and I had to make a full-on decision as to whether I was just going to give myself fully to it or just stuff around. And I think that was when I was at 19 or 20. But 21 really kind of, I was so right on, I'm going to give everything I got, and that's when really good results started to come. And also that training, the training kind of lifted me into another level because no one else was really doing it. And people went, oh, Tom's changed. And of course I did. I changed and I moved with it.
Mate, you always have looked like the fittest man around, mate. But, mate, 83, 84, you got the world titles. And then in 85, you stepped back with the apartheid from the South African event. You could have actually had a third world title. Mate, how do you feel about that today?
I feel good about what I did there. It was definitely just something that came from the heart, and you know, if the head got in the way, it could have kind of muddled things up, but it definitely was something that came strongly from another part of me that I wasn't quite aware of straight away, but I knew that every time I went to South Africa to compete and some of the things that I was witnessing and so on, and under the context of the time where athletes, you know, people who are in the spotlight who were seen to support it were, well, I got it. That was we're getting frowned upon. There was a big anti-apartheid movement going on. I really got what they were coming from. Not that I'm a full-on activist in any way. I am deeply in some way, but I'm not like outwardly, I'm going to, you know, just stand up to anything or for anything. But this one was particularly strong one for me, and that I could see that if I supported it as a world champion, or I could actually make a stand against it to be an example for just one person to kind of start to shift their mind away from the idea of apartheid, which is just, I could see how damaging it was. And look, that, you know, changing it up, it's a long haul, and I knew that was going to be a long haul. You can see within our own country we've got all kinds of stuff, you know, that sort of still, like, we're only young as far as the European colonisation, super young compared to how old our indigenous peoples are, like, who've been here for so long. 65,000 years, are you kidding me? It's like,
yeah, I know.
we're just
Wow.
like, we're just like, so, but you can see that, for me, I felt it was really, really important for me to make a stand and take the sacrifice, and And I feel great about that. I feel, there was definitely some wobbles straight after it because there was so much media attention that I wasn't, planning on. I didn't sort of count on, but it was a wild time there, for a bit, and but there was so much wonderful confirmation of that decision down the track. Got to meet Nelson Mandela through Bob Hawke, and he said thank you, and all these sort of moments that are very much priceless gold in the moments of a life that's kind of hard, sometimes hard lived, sometimes softly lived.
Mate, that's unreal. Now, mate, I can't talk to Tom Carroll without talking about Pipeline, mate. I was stoked when you were on the broadcast there for Pipeline because you just give that insight, mate. And honestly, every goofy foot, besides, Tommy Carroll's a man, Pipeline, you are just synonymous with Pipeline. I know there's, the John Johns and Jerry Lopez, but you're one of those guys that when it comes to Pipeline, mate, how you still get out there piping, and how's your relationship with it?
I don't. I kind of just leave it to the pack because the pack's so vibrant, and that's how. And I can see it playing out in the way they surf today at Pipe. Maybe one day, if there's a chance to surf a heritage heat there, and I'm feeling, on my game, I'd love to surf Pipe again. I'd love to experience Pipe again, especially if there's not such a frothing pack on it. But there's so many good waves around. If I'm there and Pipe's going off, there's other waves with not many crew on, so that's the way I like to surf today. But I watch it when I watch the event. I'm on the beach just recently watching the event, and I'm surfing every wave that's coming through. I kind of watching. I love the way the athletes today work the lineup and see where to go, and I can see the ones that really feel it and sense it and understand that kind of beyond thought sort of connection that we have with that wave. And we have to have with that wave. We can't be caught up in our head out there. It's just a real, feeling that broader power of the ocean and like right on that reef and the sensations you get from, threading through all that and remaining kind of remaining intact is pretty amazing.
Well, mate, that snap, the Tom Carroll snap, like I watched it again the other day, mate. That's still current, that turn. And what like people always go, what was going through his head to do that? What was going through your head when you did that turn, mate?
I think for me, Pipeline's like a really big version or kind of grand version of the inside of North Narrabeen and on a north swell, and I can always relate it to my first wave surfing at Pipeline was just an insider, and I was like freaking out. And back then, 1978, when I first rode Pipe, you didn't wear leg ropes or anything, and I just got out and I was just macking Pipe, beautiful big Pipeline. I was scared, so scared, and I'm like paddling over, and I thought I'm just going to catch the insiders, and I spun around and to catch a wave, and all of a sudden I just felt at home. I kind of dropped down it and had this wedgie, went off the reef onto the sandbar, and I kind of got this semi-barrel, and I kind of come out and I kicked out, and I thought, oh, wow, that kind of felt like home. And that was from the get-go. And so my whole MO on bigger waves and waves of consequence was to actually surf them like I'm surfing my smaller boards on smaller waves. So I really wanted to apply that, and particularly in places like Sunset Beach and Pipeline. Both of those breaks were really prominent in our minds to prove ourselves back in those days. And so I I really wanted to, push my surfing. I tried the snap a number of times, got completely obliterated, and that wave just turned up right in that preliminary heat of Pipeline 1991, and it was a big day. It was washing through from Third Reef. You get the ones from get cat and mouse with those wash throughs, and I remember that day it was really big backwashes too. It was hectic, but I got myself into a beauty that day, and it was I wasn't thinking. I was just feeling that sensation of being in the right position, the right time, feeling my board. My board felt really, really good. I felt like I was literally at home again. Everything fell in place on that turn. I did have to kick out of that wave in a crazy backwash, and I'll never forget that. But it's it wasn't something that I was sort of like going, I want to do a snap, but it just was the way everything worked with that board and the way the board fitted into the wave.
Is it true that someone pinched that board when you broke it?
Yeah. So I think the story's pretty classic. I was just actually with Jamie O'Brien just last week talking to him about it, and then he was with my brother on the beach, Nick, and he was just this frothing, I think he was like 8 or 10-year-old grom, and he was like next to Nick Carroll, and he was like, I'm next to Nick Carroll, I'm closer to Tom, like, because he was such a frothing grom, he just wanted to be out there, in the mud. His dreams were really powerful. You can see how it's played out, and his dreams was like that. So, because as long as he could be next to Nick Carroll on the beach, like reporting, doing his thing, and he could hear what Nick was talking about, and he could you want to eavesdrop on everything Nick was talking about. He said he started getting to talk to Nick as I was sitting on the beach, and the wave. That board, in actual fact, I couldn't believe it lasted, because Pipeline devours surfboards in those conditions 2 days in a row. You're pushing it really hard every way, not always making them, getting slammed, and the board generally breaks after a good go at it like that. And but she finally gave up. She finally went 5 minutes towards the end of the final. Derek Ho needed a 9.5 or something. I was in the lead, and my board just went busted out of nowhere. Just poof! I gone, oh my God. The front half went in. I had the back half attached to my leg rope. I thought, oh well, and I went in, and I came in. It was like a few minutes left. I thought, man, if there's someone who can get a 9.5 at pipe, it's Derek Ho. And I was just, at the time, I wasn't thinking get the other half of my board. And Jamie goes to Nick, goes, you think I could get that front of his board, and he goes, yeah, go and get it, so just go and get it. So Jamie runs down, grabs the front half of the board, and then I come in, I kind of unlatch it and put it in the competition area, which is not, it's just taped, a little bit of tape around the competition area back then, all the competitors' area, so anyone could come in and grab it. So I went off, and the heat ended without Derek getting the wave, and I ended up winning. And all the hoo-ha after winning, there's press to do, and there's all this stuff going on, champagne flowing. It's all going off, right? And so I come back after all that, do the round, come back because I want the fins and I want the leg rope, and it's gone. So anyway, of course, Jamie's grabbed the back half, he's grabbed the front half, and I didn't get to see that for another 15 years. And that was after Liam McNamara said one day when I was just watching the surf at Pipeline on my bike, one early morning, Liam McNamara comes up to me and he goes, Tom, hey, I go, how you going, Liam? He goes, I know where that pink board is. I go, what? Like, the thing's way out of my mind. He goes, I know where that pink board is. I go, oh, the pipe board. I go, wow, the 91 pipe board. And he goes, yep, just wait, I'll be back in 20 minutes with it. I go, oh my God, I'm going to see that board again after all this time. And lo and behold, 20 minutes pass, along comes Liam with the two halves of the board. And I was just couldn't believe it. Next minute I'm riding down the pathway with two halves of my board that I would ridden to the win at Pipeline in 1991. And now it's encased in a Barracanized Kainai surf shop in Quicksilver Board Riders store in Haleiwa with the helmet I used. And so that's the board story. That's pretty amazing. I can't believe how boards come back.
Mate, we were talking about injuries before, but the most horrific injury, and it happened twice. I want to know how this affected your psyche when you got the old board up the date, mate. What, twice?
Ooh.
How did that affect your psyche surfing pipe?
Well, look, I was pretty injury prone there for a while. I was, through my late teens, and I was pretty reckless and go for it, and I got myself tangled with my board quite a bit, and even in the most funniest, strangest ways, like the one in Japan where the board got me in this very rare moment. Got me my friends call me Double Date Man, because basically it sort of gave me an extra date about that close to the original date. And so so that was really kind of real. I was in tears on that one. I was like, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Getting hit in that area is so intense. And but look, I was pretty accident prone. So, and talking about Pipeline, I ended up using a helmet because I felt like if there's anywhere where I'd get injured, well, I want to really kind of push it, and I don't want to be injured, and I don't want to be injured in the head, because we want to have our faculties, when we're moving through life, right? So this is it. I used a helmet, but that injury in the butt, I wouldn't. I've had a few hits in that area, slices and stuff on the butt cheeks and things like that. But this is the thing with surfing, and there's you got the bottom, you got the power of the wave, and then you got these machetes underneath your feet, right?
Yeah.
They're just flying around your head. It's just and anything can happen at any point.
Well, that's it, mate. And it's definitely something. The only one I've sort of heard that was a bit worse was when my mate Palsy grabbed Potts off the beach at Burleigh when he copped his basically disemboweled himself with his board.
Damn, that was intense.
That's crazy. That was pretty hectic. Palsy was pretty rattled. I saw him after it, after getting Martin in. But that's but I suppose it's something we all deal with as surfers. Mate, one thing what we don't all deal with, but mate, you've gone through a lot of hurdles, but maybe through what you've done in your life, I wondered if someone's ever struggling with the substance abuse or something like that, because you overcome a massive hurdle, and look at the man you are now still, mate. Is there anything that you could say to people if they are in that position, or from your experience?
Go against what it's telling you. Because if we're under the influence of an active addiction, I know it's really, really hard. It's just go against and ask for help. Go against that isolated sense of who you become, what it feels like you've become. It's not who you are. Don't be fooled. You get this, addiction or any substance abuse, whether it be alcohol, food, gambling, sex. It can be anything that you've got a grip on. You can't stop. You're powerless. You just start. One is too many, 1,000 never enough. That kind of sensation where you can't stop. You've lost your power to make a decision, a clear, determined decision, and then you just keep going back. Even if you get yourself back on the straight and narrow for about a week or something, you get a pop, and you go again. Reach out for help, and that you don't really want it in your life anymore, and you want to change, but you can't change. Reach out for help. There's so much help. As soon as you actually turn around and ask for help, genuinely from here, right here, genuinely, I'm in trouble. I need help. Guaranteed, there will be help for you available, and that seeking and asking, all kinds of cool stuff can start to happen. But it took me from the first time I kind of was asked to seek help to the point of me kind of being on my hands and knees. It was 15 years. So
Wow.
Some of us take a long time. It's sometimes fast, sometimes slow, and it's a very, very tricky position to be in that powerless position from our culture's point of view, from the way we are in our culture. The cultural message is to achieve, be better, do all these things and be all these things, and then you'll be okay, or have all these things, and then you'll be okay. The illusion of that creates not a very good inner environment and for the human mind. So tread careful, everyone out there who's suffering, and actually ask for help, because there's a lot of help out there for you, and that's what I've found. And I'm never out of the woods too, by the way. I've got to stay. It's not always crazy vigilant, but sometimes there's times when I do feel more vulnerable than others, and I need to reach out to my support groups and stuff, which I've got to remain in contact with, whether I like it or not, like literally, because I don't want to go back there. I notice and I see that happening for people, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much time I may have in the sober environment, and I hold that sober lightly. I'm like, I'm pretty, I get pretty whacked sometimes. I'm in my own head. So, but, and surfing, thank God for surfing, thank God for the ocean. Those elements in my life have really, and also the human elements that lift me, all those people around me that are, there's so many good people around that you can tap into that, I can anyway, that I've been able to learn how to reach out to. And that takes takes some practice to reach out. It doesn't make sense to pick up the phone and go the opposite way to that urge, that powerful urge.
Takes a bit of guts and determination, mate, which I know you've got bucket loads full of, mate. But, mate, now I want to get on to what you do every morning at 5 a.m, I think it is, 5 a.m. your time, the breath work and meditation.
I think it's 5 a.m. Queensland time, but it's about 4:50 Queensland time, and then it's 5:50 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So that's what I'm at the moment. I'll do that on Tuesday, on Thursday, and a Saturday morning. I just give pretty much a stage 1 meditation and just a subtle breath practice prior to that, and just sort of give a little intro to what meditation is, and what it can start to reveal in us if we practice it regularly. That's pretty much it. It's very, very simple, and it usually lasts for about 20 minutes, not the practice, but the actual sort of whole interaction lasts around 20-25 minutes, and but the meditation usually lasts around 10 minutes. Very brief interlude into your morning or wherever you are on the planet, and it's been pretty amazing, sort of watching how that sort of unfolded.
What brought you to that, or did someone introduce you to it, or did you find it yourself?
meditation, that was one of those things that when I came into recovery, and I dropped everything, and I kind of got the support that I needed to kind of take a new path. There was a part of it that was I thought, God, I'm completely crazy in the head. I want to try and stop this. I was crazy. So I was very, very, hyperactive in the mind, and so the body was playing out like that, and there was someone who just looked like who were in recovery, and they looked like they had that look in their eye that they could hold and hear me, and he could listen. He was listening to people he could hear, and he could sit back and he could just give a really concise answer and actually be involved in conversation. Whereas I couldn't be. I was involved in my conversation. That was it. Even if I'm trying to, there's two different conversations going on in my head, and it had nothing to do with having a conversation with you. So it was very, very tricky for me to be involved. It was very crazy. And I thought, as I want what he has, and I started inquiring into what he was doing, and he is a meditator, a long-term meditator. So, and I thought, I'm going to, and again, hold that meditator lightly, because, it plays out in the mind when we practice it. It sort of allows space to start to be created, and space for us to start to become the listener. And I think that has been gold for me. And that was, going on 18 and a bit years ago now. So, and I just gave myself to the practice, which needed to be done regularly for it to have that kind of effect over the system, and it happens slowly. There's nothing fast. You may have immediate experience, with yourself after like in the meditation is a bit wild and woolly, but even after the meditation, you come out and go, I'm more here, I'm more present. More kind of, I feel more together for some reason. Yeah, isn't that cool? Just for a moment, then you go back into the day and it all gets washed over again. But if we start to practice it regularly, and that's what I started to get, was the results of regular practice are all of a sudden I started to have a little bit of a sit back, and I can hear what's going on around me now, rather than sort of being involved in everything. Every single thing, and get my hands into everything. It was just, and I had to be involved with. It was a very tricky time. But for the Instagram, that started when COVID came over, and I was teaching meditation. This is like, I tell you what, this is the funniest thing this is the last thing I'd ever be, was a meditation teacher. It was like last thing, right? And
TC the guru.
I had a lot of resistance to it. It took a while for my teacher because I had a lot of inquiry over time to enrich my practice, and not that I wanted more out of it, I just wanted to enrich the experience and sort of keep it in my life and keep that inquiry kind of sort of bubbling to enrich it and to evolve really, to evolve, going for evolutionary kind of movement. And so I became a teacher in 2007, early 19. And 2019, I started taking new practice in kind of practice in 2016. And then my teacher of that practice said, "You got to be a teacher." And he kept pushing me. I go, nah. Eventually did the course just to kind of shut him up. And then all of a sudden I'm starting to teach it. Now, along comes COVID. I remember Donald Trump saying, right, no flights between all airports closed in the US. Our daughter was in Paris in the Paris opera dance school, ballet school, and she's living in Paris when she's 16. I'm going, get her out of there quick. And I remember doing the kind of the stuff with her mum just to sort of work out to how to get it back and out of Paris. And I go, man, the world's in so much turmoil. I could feel it sort of growing, this stress level. And I thought, oh, well, I'm going to use Instagram to get a little meditation out there, because I know that meditation's helped me in these sort of times when, you know, as long as we're practicing regularly, it will come to our aid. And that connection with ourselves becomes paramount in those times when we're going to have challenges in life, right? And one of those ones was a big one for us. And so I started giving the Instagram Live meditations on 21 March 20. Yeah. And that was one of those moments, yeah. So it was a kind of a COVID gift, really, that came along, and I just kept it up. And yeah, I've got all sorts of crew around the planet who come along regularly, and I've taught the courses that I teach to numerous people that have come along, and have spread what I know I've experienced with it. So been pretty cool. It's got, you know, some of them are surfers, some of them aren't. It's a whole new world.
Oh, that's pretty cool, mate. Now, so if someone wanted to do meditation, how much meditation do you really need a day or whatever to actually get advantage from it, would you say?
I wouldn't say there's about 1,000 different ways to meditate, and there's numerous ones that do 5 minutes twice a day, and there's other ones that do an hour in the morning and an hour at night, and there's all these different forms and so on. But the one I practice that I've found to be most effective is a 20 minutes twice a day meditation using a mantra, which is it's used by the mind to think the mantra and to repeat it. And so we sort of enter it into, as we close our eyes, we enter it into the process, what I call the setup, to set up to sit. You know, meditation, we think it's something, we're going to get something by doing something in the meditation, but no, it's actually the opposite. We're just allowing ourselves space to be whatever's going on and just allow it to be. Now, that's a really effective practice, 20 minutes twice a day. I know some people would have a hard time fitting that into your life, but you think about 20 minutes, you've got I think it's a 77 20-minute slots in the day. So you could just take one of those and give that to yourself and start to sort of implement that regularly. Now, I know that has great results if we start to sort of give ourselves that practice. And the practice itself is very, very simple. And like I said, it's about literally, and there's other styles of practice, say Tibetan Buddhist style of meditation, where we just sit we set our awareness upon the breath pattern that's happening in the moment, and we allow that to be literally the wave of the breath. So it's a crest and a trough, if you want to relate it to surfing or the ocean. And then we sort of ride that crest and trough with our awareness, and we just give our attention to it very subtly. There's a little bit of effort in that, and the effort's a little bit counterproductive to the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. And if that's sort of funny jargon for you, the sympathetic nervous system is that fight, flight, or freeze response. And so if we're putting effort into something, we tend to sort of tighten at that area. So it's generally the outward breath where we start to sort of soften. So there's sort of an inward breath and outward breath. We sort of move with that. It's a beautiful practice. And these are practices that are thousands of years old. There's nothing new about them, but they're still relevant, maybe more relevant today than any other time in human history. Just in the case, you might want to question that. We've got this thing. This thing is in our life, and we've got all this other stuff commanding and dragging our attention away from what we need to attend to. So there's so much competition for our attention. But if we start to learn how to come back to ourselves and allow ourselves to attend to something that is within, we start to kind of get more comfortable within ourselves. We get to sort of, okay, well, I'm not my thoughts. I'm just a whole bunch of energy pulsing through me, which is a whole bunch of thoughts. And it's a vibration. So we get sort of kind of familiar with the fact that, I'm not my thoughts. That's just, I get caught up in them, I get attached to them. That's what happens. And I'm not so sort of caught up in that stuff. It creates space within ourselves to kind of the whole body to become more coherent and the mind to become more coherent, which is beautiful. Yeah.
Mate,
it's a beautiful thing for us to be in.
That's awesome. Like if I think that's something, like you're saying about the phone, it's the first thing people look at of a morning and hands up, that's me. Last thing you see when you go to bed sometime, it's if we can get disjointed from that, that's probably a great thing. Mate, another thing I want to ask you, mate, like you're a couple of years older than me, but mate, your surfing level, of course you're a world champion and you're one of the best, but your surfing level is still great. What keeps you in your surfing form? What, in form? Is it just the repetition of surfing as much as you can, or do you do other things as well for that?
I think we have to do other things because I think it's paramount because surfing kind of gets really the body gets kind of dull. It gets dull with the same thing over and over. So we have to kind of mix it up and kind of challenge it in ways that's not normal for it to be challenged. So then it goes, oh God, I've got to do that. Oh, I've got to do that. So if we're just doing the one thing at surfing's my exercise, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But if we want to kind of have this thing that's mine now, I'm 63, there's all these things going on, I'm like crusty old guy, compared to what it was. But that's what happens. It sort of starts to want to sort of fall away on us, and we're sort of trying to keep this thing up. So we want to challenge it and sort of. So what I like to do is just do keep really stable in the hips and open, get the cardio working. So there's some challenge to the cardiovascular system, so it's pumping oxygen through the body really efficiently and as efficient as possible. So I'm actually available when I get into those situations in the surf, which I really love, which are, when they're quite challenging. And I like to throw myself in those situations. It's sort of part of, I feel still that's a big part of who I am. I love that feeling of challenge. But we need to kind of cross-train for surfing as far as the body kind of lasting, if that makes sense. It's just a natural part of sort of sparking that energy in the body that's always been there, to sort of re-alivening it. But yeah, mix up your training, give it some good challenge. The body likes stress in certain measures. So we need to have that stress, and we don't want to get caught up in sort of being in the comfort zones too much, even though we're all prone to that, because it's nice to be on the couch sometimes and just watching TV and, eating some chips or whatever you do, but I eat some big bucket of ice cream, I don't know. But it's like, or having your beers, that whatever it is. It's like, that's fine, but just, just measure it a little bit to how you are, and that surfing demands so much of us, like it's very tricky. As we get older, we get up on the board, and, it's one of those things where we're coming from a prone position to a stand-up position, which is valuable for our kind of life force, because we've got to use our core, we've got to use all that sort of stuff. So any sort of cross-training you can do, from Pilates to asana yoga practices to, swim training's a really good one, where you really sort of push yourself and you're doing it with people, doing it with a group always pushes you harder than what you can do individually. And if you're just entering into that, just go real slow at first and make little movements, little improvements come.
Oh, that's awesome, Tom. Hey, mate, I'm going to wrap it up now. It has been a pleasure and an honour to have a chat with you, mate, and I can't wait to get you up at Burleigh, and I'll see if I can get
Tappa.
a wave maybe when I'm out with you next time.
Yeah, no, fantastic, Tav. It's been really good chatting with you. I want one of those Mambo
awesome,
T-shirts
Tom.
too. That's that next level, that Mambo T-shirt. I love it.
I love them,
dog
mate.
Farting. It's the best. The poo shooter. What was it? Yeah, they did the poo shooter.
Yeah, I think the poo shooter. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that was epic.
Oh, mate, it's good. Mate, I love it, mate. Thank you so much. Hey, that's awesome. That's great.
Pleasure.
You. Thanks for tuning into The Green Room. A big thank you to our guests for sharing their stories and insights, our producer Sarah, and Podfire for bringing this podcast to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, and share The Green Room with your friends. We'll catch you next time for more conversations with the legends of surf and beyond. Until then, catch you in the waves.